when you are clear about what matters to you, what's resonant for you, you can ask for, I'm going to go back to the platform of this whole podcast, which is you can ask for more of what you want so you can reach your goals faster.
It's incredible. It seems like a trick, but it's just that clarity.
Exactly. It seems like a trick. I love that. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DIa Bondi Show, a big, huge, ginormous podcast for women and just about everyone who's got goals. I'm DIa Bondi, longtime leadership communications coach and creator, Project Ask Like an Auctioneer, and I'm so happy to be here today with my on-air bestie, Arthur Leon Adams III, a.k.a. Baby A.
I'm so happy to be here.
I can tell.
Yeah.
Your big, huge, robust, relaxed voice can get, it just beams excitement.
Yeah, that's what people always say.
Hey, listen, it's a Friday. We're recording on Fridays. It's foggy out. And I have to say, I totally thought we were recording an hour from now. And so whatever situation, we're recording on video, whatever situation this looks like is not on purpose. Sorry about that.
We're just going to get that spontaneous, sparkling energy that you just have inside you.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to sparkle pretty soon. In just a second. I'm about to sparkle. Everybody just wait a second. I'm about to.
And yeah, it is gray and foggy today. We actually turned the heat on this morning, which we haven't done in a couple weeks.
What?
Yeah.
I know. And it's May 28th. We're recording today on May 28th.
Yeah. So what's going on today?
I'm at this weird, and maybe folks who are listening have this sometimes, where we just completed a big project, something that actually you and I worked on together. You produced for a project we did for a large brand around communication stuff that I do in my world. And we completed that. The final deliverable was day before yesterday, and we shot that off. And I'm between that and whatever's next. And I'm in that weird, neither here nor there moment. You know that feeling?
Oh yeah, it's the lull between projects, and
it is, and it's it can sometimes be a little anxiety provoking for me. I mean, I have other things that are going on, ongoing coaching engagements, and of course, the pursuit of other projects. But we are in this just completed and just about to fire some other stuff up and get a few things in the bag, and it just. Yeah, it's that weird lull. And I have to remember, even though it's anxiety provoking, that this is actually the time to rest and reflect and kind of gather myself again. I like working in sprints. Folks maybe listening notice that they sort of are marathoners, right? Where we just sort of, we have ongoing work that we always do. It's sort of always a similar rhythm, and we're laying our work down in layers. And then folks like me who work in a series of sprints, which I really love. And I don't know why I still get a little anxious between those sprints when I know that's how I like to work and it's a recognizable feeling. I always feel oh no. And then I have to remember oh no, this is just the between time. This is when you go for a walk. This is when you sit in the courtyard. This is when you get to do some working on my business instead of working in my business. This is when I get to learn something new. This is when I get to widen my gaze a little bit. So that's what's happening for me right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way, and my career is kind of the same way, where I have these sprints and then I have the lulls. And I think that in the past they've been really anxiety producing for me, but I've gotten
the lulls have been anxiety. Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, because it was my entire financial situation rested on me hustling some more work. It wasn't just that there was a lull and I knew a project was coming. It was there's a lull and I've got nothing yet and I got to hustle for something. But I settled more into a rhythm of knowing that certain projects and work were coming, and it's made me less anxiety filled during those times.
I find that is, I noticed, because my work is also sort of cyclical that way. I do, even in those moments where I'm oh no, I just finished something, now what do I do? And it can be anxiety provoking. I've been in the second half of I'm sort of in the middle part of my career. I'm starting to relax a little bit and doing actively trusting that the next thing will come, or the next, the project will kick off when the next project, even if we have it already confirmed, will kick off at the right time. And just sort of trusting that this is the nature of the work. Nothing's wrong, nothing's broken. I'm not moving fast enough. This is just to be in harmony in the noticing of sort of the natural rhythm of the way that I work and the world that I work in works. You know what I mean? Like just trusting that.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, it took me a long time.
Especially when we're, we live in a culture of, use the word hustle, where like if you're, there's a little bit of there can be a perception that if we're not foot on the gas, pedal to the metal, that something's wrong, that we're not good enough, ambitious enough, aggressive enough, focused enough, defined enough, all that. And, rest is really an important part of the whole cycle. So, yeah. And it's interesting because today we're actually going to have a guest who is a career coach and, deals a lot, I think, with folks' anxieties around their work life and how it fits into their whole life. So maybe relevant that we're talking about this today.
The quote unquote work-life balance.
I don't know if she talks about work-life balance. I mean, I think work-life balance is garbage. I think it's, we're never, it's a seesaw. It's always changing. It's very alive. But I think more like.
Well, work is part of your life
exactly.
too. So.
Like I think more like work-life self-integration. That's how I think about it.
If you like the show, there are many ways you can support us. You can subscribe, rate, and review on whatever platform you like to listen to, and that will help the DIa Bondi Show reach new listeners. If you have a question for DIa about an important ask in your life, you can give us a call at 341-333-2997, and maybe you'll hear your question answered on a future episode. So today we have Lindsey Gordon on the show.
Lindsay is a career coach for analytically minded people who want to stop doing what they think is right in their careers and start doing what's right for them. She helps people get clarity about what's right for them in a job and why. She helps them get confident about their skills and abilities and helps them be able to communicate that to interviewers, managers, and colleagues so they can get what they want. While she loves applying her engineering brain to help people find a career that fits, she also loves baking complicated pastries and, check this out, barbershop singing.
In 3 places, Seattle, Chicago, and New York. He broke my heart in not 3 but 4 places, Toledo, Albuquerque, Minneapolis, and St. Paul. That's not all. Rascal. He broke my heart in 5 places, Miami, Austin, Boston, Chattanooga, and Montreal.
So, Lindsay, I'm so happy to have you here with me. Thank you for saying yes to coming on to the DIa Bondi Show, a big, huge podcast for women and folks with goals.
I love it. I'm so happy anytime I get to chat with you.
So great. So you run, you are the life of options lady. And I want to start by this is not even related maybe to the content, but what the heck? I had a different word in my script, but what the heck is up with the pressure we have to have a certain kind of life when we think about our careers and our ambitions? What's up with that? Is that a thing?
It is a thing, and it is the worst. This is where I actually start with all of my clients of what pressures do you feel? Because there are so many. And I like to play this game called Pressures Bingo that doesn't have any winners, where I share the top 8 pressures that I hear again and again and again and again, that everybody thinks it's just them. And then my clients get to say, oh, I definitely feel a solid 6 out of 8 of those. So I'm just like, yep, we're swimming in the soup of pressure. And that is why we have trouble listening to ourselves. That is why we have trouble going off the, I want this shiny job path. So there is so much pressure.
Yeah, I love it. I started with this because I know you as someone who, and I think you and I've had some exchanges about you get to want what you want. And cutting through all the noise of what everyone else wants for you, and everyone could be just, an enigmatic general pressure, or it could be an actual voice of a person, your manager, your parents, your boss, your partner, your whomever. But our very first episode, I think, of the DIa Bondi Show, we talked about like, what is ambition to you? You know, there is not like, these are the 3 kinds that you can have. But like ambition for some folks could be living simply. And in other cases, it could be, traveling around the world. In some cases, like, it is so uniquely personal, but it's really hard to get into relationship with that. So can you fire off some of those 8?
Yes. So this is a great test. I should have it figured out by now. And everybody else, I'm behind everyone else.
Behind what?
Oh yeah, behind where you should be, Yeah, just general pressures. My job is my identity and it defines me. I should be farther along in my career given my age. I shouldn't give up this path because I have spent so long going in this direction. So kind of like there's no chance for me to change. Those are the couple that stand out to me.
What's interesting to me about all of those is that, is this unique? Or the question that I have is this unique? This is not one of the questions I planned. But as someone who I'm 47 years old, and I was teasing myself on a call yesterday about, in my life, I didn't have a job until my 30s, and I only had a job for about 3.5 years. Right around the time, Arthur, I met you, I was jobbing it, and in my quote unquote career. And the things that you're talking about, do you find that these belong only to folks who have sort of in-house careers and manage their careers, or do you find that it's also for folks like me who have been, out of house, living sort of an independent professional life?
I would say most of the folks that I work with are jobbing it, but I think that there are pressures for all kinds of situations that you might be in. So I don't think anyone's exempt, but it's possible that it might look a little bit different. And I think it also changes based on the stage of your career that you're in. So I have clients that range from probably 20s to 68. And it's interesting to see what are the different pressures that affect you at different times. Sometimes you're over another one is I have to constantly be moving up and, up and to the right in my career. And at some point you're like, yeah, I felt that a while ago, but now that I'm, approaching the later years of my career, I care less about that. So it's interesting to see the different phases where they show up.
And those pressures are, sometimes they are very explicit. I had a discovery call not long ago with a potential client who said directly to me in the call, you may not be a junior analyst here for longer than, X period of time. If your career is not moving up and to the right, you don't get to be here anymore. So it's very, that pressure is real, and, we're not going to maybe change that system, but what does that mean to your clients who recognize the gap between the messaging that they're getting from the context that they're in and what actually matters to them?
Yeah. I think it's the agency, right? When you have the choice to say, oh, interesting, I do not care about climbing the ladder. That's not what growth and development looks like for me, then you could make a choice and say, I think this environment is not a fit. And when we say that, it is a very different experience than when we say, wow, this is really a personal failure on me. Why don't I want to climb the ladder? Why does everyone else want to? And we get so stuck in well, I guess I can't hack it, or this is a weird personal failure. Whereas when we can shift to, oh, this is not aligned with what I actually choose, there is so much power in that.
When you work with someone and they have that realization, when they recognize, I'm getting choked up even talking about it. When they recognize that the life, the work, look, I'm actually crying. Do you see this? This is crazy. When they recognize that their work ambitions, ingesting the messages and the pressures are misaligned to who they actually are. When they see it and they start to name it and claim it, what is that experience for them? And for those of you listening, maybe you're in that right now.
It's unbelievable. It is freedom. It is self-honoring. I definitely have goosebumps. I remember one woman who almost whispered to me. She was like, I think I don't actually get all of my meaning and purpose and drive from work. And I've never been able to say that. And she was just unleashed. She got to show up at work and bring her best and enjoy it to, some extent, but she no longer felt like work has to be everything to me. And she could spend more time on herself, and she could spend more time with her family, and she could spend more time on her hobbies. So it is something goes off in people and they're just like, oh, life has changed. Like night and day, I get to interact differently with work.
Is there ever a sense of loss in that? Or is it all really more freedom? Or are they two sides of the same coin?
I don't know if there's always loss, but I think there often can be. I have a woman who is kind of in the latter stages of her career, and she really figured out that at this stage of life, she wants to be able to spend more time with beauty, with contribution, with taking care of herself. And she made this really bold ask of negotiating a part-time job, and the company made it happen. And she feels awesome. She never knew that this would be possible. She had no plans to make this bold ask. And she was like, I'm sad. Like, she was making the decision. She knows that it's right for her. And there's grief in that transition. And saying,
what was she grieving?
I think in some ways it can feel like a demotion. When we choose to step off the ladder or the more, and it can sometimes feel like, am I doing the right thing? I'm taking a step back. I'm doing less hours. How are people going to perceive me? What kind of opinions are people going to have? And so I think it does often take something, and there is some kind of mourning those transitions and what you hoped your job would have been to you or what your job has been to you, while still knowing that it's the right thing for you.
I love that you're pointing to, she made it. To me, when I think about helping, women and folks who are underrepresented in their industries ask for more and get it, more is often less if you look at it from that perspective of asking for more time in my life, asking for more spaciousness, asking for doing more of what I love and less of what I don't, asking for more freedom, asking for more autonomy, which is less constriction, So when I think of asking for more and getting it, it's not like a net more. It can actually be a net less, but you end up with more of what's aligned to what you actually want and need in your life and career. So, yes, I just wanted to name that what you're pointing to, while it was less work maybe in her job, it was more of her life on her own terms or more of something that mattered.
Yep. And then we get to see work as a part of life.
Is it often that when you work with folks and they get clear about what they want, because I think there's an assumption that, if I'm working with a career coach, that means I'm going to leave my job. I'm going to leave my career. Everything's going to be different. And I'm curious, is that true?
This is my favorite finding of my entire business. So a little while ago, I crunched the numbers because I was curious. I was thinking about doing more work with corporate, and I was like, if I go into companies and say, I want to work with your people, and everybody leaves, that's pretty awkward, right? That's not going to be good for business. So I looked at the numbers, and I looked at the number of people who were coming to me in a job at that moment. And normally when people come to me, they're like, I'm about to rage quit any day. I'm done with this job. I'm done with this company. I'm done with this field. I'm ready to burn it down. And of the people who came to me in that state, more than 50% of them are in the same exact situation by the time we finish working together, with zero external circumstances changing. Zero. It is wild. And so it happens again and again and again and again, and people can have such a different experience of what work means to them, of how it aligns with their strengths, of pieces that they were hyper-focused on, seeing them as downsides, as understanding, what does this job mean to me at this phase of life? And it doesn't mean, we don't candy coat in my world, so it doesn't mean everything is perfect and I'm going to be here for the rest of time, but it's a very calm and grounded, oh, I actually understand a little bit better about what I'm looking for, all of the expectations that I was putting on my job, and I see how this is actually a good fit for me right now and gives me time to maybe look for the next stepping stone that is going to get closer. So I'm accidentally running an employee retention program, which is very confusing and wonderful to me.
So in some ways, it can be that nothing changes and everything changes.
Yeah. And that's great news if you're scared of making a big change or financial security is a big value of yours. So I never want you to do anything that feels super risky, to burn it all down, to feel like you don't know what's next. And so if you can find some peace in your current job, as long as it's not actively bad for you, right? We always check for that. We don't want you to be making something a fit that's not a fit, but so often people can find more of that freedom and that calm.
So what was it like for you? Because you were an in-house professional, working, I think, in an engineering function, no? And you made a transition yourself. Like, can you talk about that with us?
I love to be very clear about my path, because sometimes people will say, "Oh, you quit your you quit your job and did your passion," right? That's a very easy, pressure-filled way to tell the story. So I like to be very clear that I have fallen into all three of my job transitions. They were not intentional. They were not 5-year planned out, but I followed all these little things that were interesting to me. So I started off in engineering. I completely fell into technical support. And then I completely fell into running my own business. And people often ask, oh, did it feel really risky to do your own thing? And it's interesting because I think we often connect riskiness with entrepreneurship. And yet to me, I found it very not risky because I had tested it out in all of the ways that I knew how to before making the change. And this is something I tell clients all the time. Test it out in whatever way you can. So while I was working at Google doing technical support, I had my accidental side business pop up, and so I tested it that way. Then I actually moved to a different role internally, doing career development to see if I liked that. And so by the time I made my transition into full business ownership, I was like, oh yeah, I know that this is interesting to me. This is aligned with my values. I'm really jazzed about the work. And so it felt delightfully non-risky. And I do want to point out, I do have the privilege of a partner with a full-time salary. And that is a very real privilege when we talk about doing our own thing. So I always like to be clear about that too.
So when you work with folks and they get what they want, like whether it means they made a career change internally, they moved to half-time, they stepped out on their own, they changed nothing at all, when they actually find that alignment, how do they know they've gotten what they want? And then what?
I like to say there is a lack of the whirlwind of chaos. Because when we don't know what we want, and let's say a recruiter calls with a shiny job, and the recruiter's like, hey, you should want this job. And then we immediately, the whirlwind of chaos shows up and we're like, oh my gosh, do I want that job? I should want that job. Anybody else would kill for that job. Oh my gosh, but why don't I want it? And then it's like existential questioning and we're out, we're done. Our energy is gone. And so when we are in a place where we have clarity, where we have certainty, where we have confidence about what's right for us, you get to say very easy yeses and very easy no's, and you get to retain all of your energy so that when that recruiter calls, you get to say, thank you so much for reaching out. That job is actually not a fit for these specific reasons. And what I'm looking for is this, that, and the other. So if you have opportunities like that, I would love to hear about it. So when people do that for the first time, they're like, did I just do it? what just happened? Like, is it that easy? And, it can be that easy once you get incredibly clear. So that's how you know you're there. There's a very distinct lack of chaos. And then from there, you get to keep cultivating opportunities. So you get to share about what's important to you and what you're looking to create more of at work.
And is that the component of being able to communicate to your teams, potential employers, new projects that come on deck that you could possibly engage with at work? Because it's not just about job or role. It could be projects you take on or initiatives, the role you play in an initiative internally, how you position yourself with others. So that clarity becomes a platform to communicate externally, like outwardly, so that you can get more of what you want and fend off what you don't.
Yeah. And I'll give you one short example. I had a client who discovered that she loves public speaking and connecting with stakeholders and presenting in front of a team. And so she said exactly that to her manager. I would love to do more of that if you see it. And then her manager starts running defense for her and connecting her to opportunities to present and speak in front of stakeholders. Sometimes it can be that easy that when you identify what you want, communicate it to your manager, they can then support you to find those opportunities.
And in my world, that sounds like an ask. So folks who listen to this podcast know that, since I launched Project Ask Like an Auctioneer, and instead of looking at all the work I do through just a communications, leadership communications and voice, lens, looking through strategic asking, the asks that I notice folks make can fall into those four categories. They are money, sure, comp, whatever your freelancing rates or salary. It's authority, which is, power over decisions, maybe in your existing role, or maybe that means comes with a promotion, but doesn't necessarily have to be. Another one is influence. And what you're pointing to are like somebody who shines in a position where they are an influential voice in the room. I mean, standing in front of a room and presenting to a group is inherently an influential position to be, and also, by the way, has implicit authority in it. Like those are the kinds of strategic asks we can make to help get us, not just because we love doing that thing, but that also helps us reach, can be a tool for reaching other goals as well. So when you are clear about what matters to you, what's resonant for you, you can ask for, I'm going to go back to the platform of this whole podcast, which is you can ask for more of what you want so you can reach your goals faster.
It's incredible. It seems like a trick, but it's just that clarity. I love it.
Exactly. It seems like a trick. I love that. So when folks who might be listening are starting to really get that twinge of, I'm not in the right spot. I'm not living in alignment with who I am. I'm miserable. I'm getting that whisper of like, I don't want to tolerate this anymore. I don't like. Where do they start?
I think it goes back to the pressures. Is always where I have people start. Is if they can make a list of all of the pressures that they feel, all of the expectations that they feel. My career has to, I should have to, it makes the most logical step for me to XYZ. My family thinks I should, my culture thinks I should. And if you can write those out, sometimes even just seeing the list is quite moving for people. Because they're running around in your head being pretty mean in there. And if we can get them out, it makes a little bit more room for you to listen to those like, okay, but what do I want? And I have a sense that this isn't it. So that's always where I have people start.
Beautiful. This is, for those of you who might be listening who are not maybe an in-house career professional, but work as a consultant or a freelancer, or you're building your own small business, for me, what keeps coming up for me is a conversation I had with a potential client last year. We were on a call, and it was a head of learning and development in combination with his program manager. Interestingly, she knew about Project Ask Like an Auctioneer, which is like so wild. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. And we didn't even have anybody in common. I don't know how we ended up getting connected. Anyhow, we're in a conversation and I'm talking about my leadership communications coaching work and the workshops I do around that, as well as, the work I want to continue to do to elevate women. And he was asking about something related to communications. And I said, you know what? That's actually not me. That's not the part that I do. It feels like it's in the field of what I do, but here, let me be really clear about the part that where I have impact. And he was actually taken aback by the fact that I, as a coach, told him what I don't do. He said, I meet thousands of coaches who say, oh, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. And pretty soon I don't know what actually they do. And I can't trust that they're good at any one of those things because they do such a broad field of things. And it was interesting because in that moment I had a choice, because could I have done the things he was asking? Absolutely. I could figure that out. I can figure anything out. So many of us can. So many of us can do so much stuff. And it was a little moment of alignment, a choice to align with who I actually am, commit to the thing I want to do more of, position myself as not the person who can do anything, but instead the thing that I want to do most of. And it took a little courage for me to say, that's not me. But the outcome was actually more trust in the relationship with the person I was talking to, because I was able to stand up for what the yeses are and what the nos are, which helped focus our relationship and what kind of impact we could have together. So, that's what comes up for me as an outsider, not an insider career person.
Yep. There's so much honoring in that. And honoring for you and honoring for him. And yeah, it creates a big impact. I often have that experience when I will often try to tell people on, my consultation calls, like, oh, I'm definitely not the right fit for this reason, that one, this one. You can, say why you think I might be the right fit, but I will always share when I am not the right fit and try to get you connected to the right person.
That goes so far. And just for me, when you talk about retaining energy in your life and career and your work, that is very confidence producing and energy retaining to be able to put those boundaries around what you say yes and what you say no to. Lindsay, how do folks work with you?
Well, I have two options. So one is I have a brand new course, which I am so excited about, called Job Search Synergy. And if you are currently in a job search, if you are at the stage of evaluating offers, if you are hovering around a job search and asking, should I, do I need to quit, all of those questions, this is the course for you. It helps you have this really clear and confident and powerful job search where you get to make decisions that feel good to you. And the other way I work with people is a 3-month intensive individual coaching program. I am doing less of that these days because I have not enough hours in my day to work with everybody. So the course is a great option if you like a self-paced environment, but I also work with people one-on-one. And you can find me at alifeofoptions.com. Or also connect with me on LinkedIn. I share a lot of fun client stories, what people are discovering. I post about once a week. So I would love to connect with people there as well.
Excellent. So I also saw that you are giving a 15% off for listeners of the DIa Bondi Show if they use code DIa Bondi Show for your online course.
Yes. So would absolutely love for you to take advantage of that. Get some clarity and some confidence and have an unbelievable job search with epic results that you can't even imagine are possible yet.
Lindsay, it has been nothing but delightful to have you on the DIa Bondi Show. Thank you so much. And I know that our listeners are going to get huge value from listening to your sort of beautiful and space-holding voice around helping folks live a life of options. Why do I get all choked up all the time? It's crazy. It's crazy.
Meaningful.
It's all the time.
Truly meaningful.
It is all the time. Even with my clients, with my communications coaching clients, when they find a voice that rings true for them and it has impact in the room, I just lose it. But I'm here. I'm not losing it. I'm just here and also recognizing that this is all about being able to live in a way that is truly who they are, period.
Yeah. What is better than that? That's so meaningful and beautiful. And if I could say one other thing, I would add that it is not easy to do what is right for you. And so I never want it to be just be yourself at work and, everything is going to fall into place. So I always like to call out, there are a lot of systemic barriers in the workplace that are going to get in the way of you doing what you want. And that's going to look different for different people. So it's going to look different for immigrants and people with accents. It's going to look different for parents and caregivers. It's going to look different for Black people and people of color. It's going to look different for trans people. And so as we are talking about do what is right for you, I also just want to name that and invite you to find your agency within those systems. Because the systems are real, the systems are there are a lot of barriers, and there's a lot of power if you are able to find your agency. So I'd just like to add that in the beautiful story of finding what works for you, knowing that there are going to be barriers, but where can you find your agency?
So that was fantastic.
Yeah, she's cool.
She's super cool. And I love it that she's so clear that she says she's, a career coach for analytically minded people. And, my favorite part of that whole thing is that, over half of the folks that she works with, did she say a little more than half the folks she works with, never end up changing jobs. But they have a whole new sense of alignment. It's just great. What'd you take away?
Well, there's a lot of things, especially the things she was talking about at the beginning, where she goes in and she has all the 8 questions or whatever, or the 8 things that people always think. And, you both talked a little bit about how maybe it's a little more common in people that are in-house places because they feel like they're not at the right rung in the ladder in their career. But I've felt a lot of those things over the years, especially in my 20s when I was trying to make it with my band and just, feeling like I wasn't at the place that I should be. A lot of places it was aligned with where I wanted to be. So luckily I had that. But, as you go on, you just have to start redefining what it is you want out of your career over and over and over again, because, it's hard to achieve the pie in the sky kind of things that I wanted to achieve in music and filmmaking and stuff. So you redefine what you want about it.
Yeah, I love that point that it is like our lives are living, breathing, changing things constantly. And there's this question that comes up for me all the time is like, who am I now? Who am I now? How about now? How about now? What matters now? How about now? Now what matters? Because I'm in relationship with new people and new things. I'm growing and evolving all the time. So, and how we think something might work out or how an achievement might feel or something we want to do may not, play out or have the experience, the lived experience that we imagine in our minds. So we have to course correct. And, there's none of that's wrong.
Right. Yeah, 10 years ago, I wanted to be on tour 6 months out of the year and just make all my living from playing music. And now I'm like, hell no.
Yeah, but I can barely get you to go out for noodles at this point,
Yeah, that's right.
All right, listen, I loved being with you today. I loved being with Lindsay.
Great.
And for folks who are listening, we're so glad you're here. And stay tuned.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
This podcast is a production of DIa Bondi Communications and is produced and musicified by Arthur Leon Adams III, aka Baby A. You can share, rate, and subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Find us at diabondi.com or follow us on Instagram at The DIa Bondi Show. Want to shoot us a question for the show? Call us at 341-333-2997.